Hey guys, I thought I'd just jump on because I'm starting work on a new book. The channel kind of left off with Blueprint, and what I'll do is I'll connect the link to that book. It's on, and Blueprint just kind of set out the architecture of the tactical framework, right? So this book, I'm not sure what the title is yet. Book, we're going to create the actual model, right? And a couple things I'm seeing or learning again this way. Basically, if you're starting with the formation as opposed to principles, I think you're on the wrong track, right? Formations really shouldn't mean much because what you're really interested in is the underlying principles. So the intro is the hidden order of football tactics, cognition, systems thinking. And what you're trying to come up with is not the solution to football. You're trying to come up with a solution to your team, right? And that solution could involve, Ted has said 36 formations used within a game. I'm not sure there's that much, right? But you kind of need to or go from formation to model, right? And how you do that. Basically, there's just a series of scenarios you want to hit. And when you start with a formation and then how you build or modify from there, right? And the question is first is which team's going to be dominant? How are they going to be dominant from a physical, psychological, technical point, right? So if you're coming up against a more dominant team, how do you modify your formation, right? And if you look at, say, a game like Football Manager, right, which increasingly the Football Manager matrix, right, not just the overall architecture, but the actual setup and principles debate in Football Manager, increasingly that's how people are beginning to think of the game, because I think it actually makes a lot of sense. Your game model has got 5 or 6 variants, formations, depending on what's happening on the field ahead of time, depending on what the defense is doing and depending on what the scenario and score is, right? And I'll give you like a matrix. Defenses basically, if you look at most defenses, they probably have 2 or 3 kind of setups. And then the game condition, 1 goal ahead or 1 goal down, those are the game conditions that matter for the most part, right? And maybe the time left, right? So it's 3 by 3 by 3 by 3. 81 different scenarios, but roughly grouped in 3 by 3 by 3. So roughly in 27 different scenarios. Yeah. So let's say so maybe Arteta's right. There's about 30 formations that you play in a game depending on the scenarios that come up, right? So football itself is not a solved game, but your team has got to be a solved situation. You got to have a game model, right? And so we're working on the game model. Dave and I, starting with a 4-1-4-1, where we're outmatched and we're counterattacking, right? So what does that look like? And in the process of both writing the book and figuring out what that looks like and how that translates. So a 4-1-4-1 in this conception of it is really a 4-3-3 that collapses, right? And when we're in that 4-1-4 sort of too tight, it's really 2 tight vertical lines of 5 crammed into deep and narrow, right? And in the midfield, in order to maintain the cover and the solid build-up, because he wants to play possession, we got 2 straight lines of 5 for midfield, right? So if you think you can conceive of how you attack, especially in a contact situation, as you first spread out to secure the ball and then go long and narrow, direct. In that spread out in between phase, so first you have your lines of 4 with the 4-1-4-1, right? The 8, maybe the 10, right? Or the 9 and the 10 even, between inside the 2 blocks of 4. And then when you win the ball, you want to immediately secure it going wide, right? And from there, the question is how do you want to progress carefully? If the immediate long ball is not on, right, how are you progressing midfield? So we're talking about la pausa and having 2 lines of 5 to make sure there's complete coverage, right? And now you can reverse the ball securely. And now it also makes the defense behind, right, make a decision about stepping up and through and who they're marking, right? So through the midfield, 2 blocks of 5, and then we're trying to attack more narrow, right? And a couple ways you can do that. You can spread out into an inverted pyramid, the way like positional play is. If you're already not the dominant team, we started with a 4-1-4-1 low block, you're not the dominant team, right? And so spreading out from that low block is a lot of effort. A lot of things have to go right to get that shape. And so once you get the 2 lines of 5 and the stacked sort of width covered, and you got kind of 2 options. One is an overload central, right, where there's no 6 and 8 in the middle. So it's rounding zone 14 narrow, right? Kind of like that, because it focuses the formation into that central attack with her behind. So we're already thinking about the counter press. And the other is to play in 4s, wherever that may be, either 3-3-1-3 or 3-1-3-3, right? But have 4 people responsible for the ball, and then a couple people who are supporting those 4 in terms of runs, and then people getting structure, right? Whether that's inverted fullbacks or up and wide. And so you're no longer thinking about formation. Formation is the initial, what shape was I in breaking out of my zone? And then after that, that's it. Conventional formations to the midfield, you have 2 stacks of 5. You can have a big circle like Chelsea is with 1 player in the middle, right? And they're very, very far away, 1 or 2 players in the middle, right? You can collapse a 4-4-2 diamond with that same kind of Chelsea circle. Just have more players in the middle, but the more players in the middle, the more they have to collapse, right? You can have Hansi, which is basically like a triangle that moves forward, or Red Bull's very similar, narrow triangle with a gap in the middle that moves forward. You can have the inverted pyramid, the way Pep attacks, right? So, or you can have 2 diamonds, right and left, with the libero and the 9, right? The way Barcelona does it. There's all kinds of, or 2 triangles, right and left, high, the way like West Ham does it, right?
Matthew, as a reminder, update reading log.
And so, there's all kinds of ways to do it. Those Barcelona and West Ham formations are about switching the ball, right? The Hansi Flick formation is about overloading the middle. Pep is about spreading out the defense and creating gaps in the zone. Whatever it is you're doing, right? And that sort of like diamond, cuadrados kind of situation. That lends itself to play. So you see Real Madrid do that a lot. You see old school Barca do that a lot, right? Where they pull the ball wide and then attack with automations, right? Whether that's 4-0, Escandinha, 3-1-1, whatever it is, those are automations when they pull the defense. So I just think that the formation as you conceive of it is just the starting point from how you're building out the back, right? After that, it disappears. What you're doing in the midfield could be dictated by a whole bunch of things. Could be dictated by how many people you want to secure the ball in the middle, like how you want to progress the middle. You need numbers to progress in the middle. If you're building down the sides, you might be able to stick the forwards behind, 9 and 10 behind, rather than have the 9 and 10 drop in and help. If you want to solve from side to side, like a West Ham or Barcelona, then there's no one in the middle per se, right? But you got 2 diamonds, and then you got the either swing back or swing forward. So, in a nutshell, the starting formation now has to reflect different things you're trying to do and different formations you're going to take up as the game progresses through the thirds, right? So my 4-1-4-1 very quickly becomes a 4-3 if we need to space out and play positionally, right? 1-4-1 more attacking and central, but if we feel we can now possess the ball and space out, it's a 4-3-3. If we feel we need to be even more careful with the ball, it's 2 lines of 5 through the midfield, right? If now going into the final third, the 4-3-3 typically spreads out as positional play. But if you're not doing that, then your formation is like a Christmas tree or those 2 blocks of 4, right? And running automations. So how you get into the final third, maybe right, left, or down the middle, dictates the formation, right? Down the middle, the formation is much more narrow, but it has got this big hole in the middle. On either side, you have 2 diamonds or 2 triangles, right? And then the question is what's the link? So 2 diamonds is a link up top and a link below. 2 triangles is just sort of a loop behind a defenders, like a little umbrella defenders, 3 or 4 of them, right? Supporting those 2 diamonds, 2 triangles. And the automations have been triangles as opposed to groups of 4, right? So your game model, right? We're thinking about it's a 4-3-3 essentially, but against a dominant position, domination is pulled back and compressed. Against a balance, it's a traditional 4-3-3. And then when we are more dominant, then our fullbacks or someone, we create that inverted triangle. So either the fullbacks have got to invert, someone's got to invert, and the fullback's got to push up, right? So it's basically a 2-3-5 or 3-2-5, right? Sort of inverted pyramid when we're the more dominant team. So you start 4-1-4-1 is essentially the same 4-3-3, essentially the same as that more dominant inverted pyramid that you see with positional play. It's all the same. So now if that's all the same, would the underlying numbers have any kind of meaning? No, the principle is how far are we? How far is our defensive line? What are the individual instructions of the players? And that's going to depend on the game condition and what you're doing through the thirds. Right? Are you more careful, more possession based? Well, then you're going to have more width out the back, maybe more numbers. So 4-3 is really a 4-1-2-3, right? That may not give you the amount of numbers that allow you to progress to the back. And so the instruction is not, oh, we need to change formation. The instruction is you're dropping an 8 to a different role. Or you're dropping a 6 into the back line, your back 3, and then you're dropping, and there's a 3-5-2 or something, right? And if you get away from the base formation, right, the irrelevant information, and you get to principles, what's the defense doing? What's the score line? And what are we trying to do? Then the instructions get put in a more coherent fashion. And the game model is the same. The game can be based on the formations, but understanding that the formations are the same. 4-1-4-1 is a 4-3-3, right? It is. Especially if you're the dominant team, you're going to spread out. It's going to be a 4-3-3, right? Just with aggressive 8s, right? A 4-3-3 through the midfield is going to be very different than a 4-3-3 through the attacking third. It's a 4-3-3 through the attacking third is going to have a rest defense of 2, 3 at most, right? So it probably makes more sense to talk about what are the roles in each third, and how do we tweak them based on what the demands of the game are, what the game condition is, defense, time, and score. And now, other than like conceptual formations as just a baseline, it really doesn't make any sense. We've got to be much more adaptive to what the defense, time left in the game, and score is in order to produce the kind of results we need. And maybe Arteta's right. Because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so maybe there are 30 some formations, depending on the game condition. So it's going to be, I got to find a title for the book if anyone wants to suggest one. So we're moving the blueprint even beyond formations into principle play, right? What the solution is, not of the game, but the solution. Maybe I'll call it the solution for your team. Anyway, thanks, guys.